I was in a marriage for about 23 years and divorced in 2002. My husband left for another woman, and so I started going to church after that and going to a divorce recovery class at the church. And in that divorce recovery class, there was this man who just spoke about his love for God and just really hooked me. After I moved in with him, I started to see a different side to him. Behind closed doors, he would get violently angry, very verbally abusive, would just let out with a string of abusive language. I'd never even knew some of these words existed. The other nature of the abuse was the financial abuse. He was retired and didn't have any money, and so he took control of my money. And then the final straw was the spiritual abuse. He would use religion against me and tell me I didn't know God and I didn't have God in my heart. It was like a roller coaster. It's like we'd be going down where it's nice, but then you start going up and then you get to the top, and right before you start to fall on a roller coaster, you have this moment of fear. And that's what it was like living with him. It was like a long roller coaster that just never would end. But each time we would go through it, it's like we would go higher up. So the fall was going to be even bigger. About 6 weeks after I'd left him, it was the weekend after Thanksgiving. He called me that Saturday night, asking me to come out and go to church with him that night, and then come over to his house because he really wanted to see me. So I said, I'll come out tomorrow. And so he says, okay, that's fine. He said, and bring your golf clubs with you. We'll go play golf and bring the papers and I'll sign the divorce papers. And so I was like, okay. We went and played golf and we had a good time playing golf that day. On the way back to his house that afternoon, we hadn't eaten anything, so I said, let's stop and get something to eat. And he said, well, let's get it to go and take it to the house. So we did that. We went back to his house. We ate in the bed, and then we had sex. And I remember laying in the dark afterwards thinking, I'm not going to do this anymore. This is it. I don't know why I did it now, but this is it. I'm not going to ever do this again. And so he got up and went out of the room, went to get his clothes because he'd left his clothes in the other room, and I got dressed. And then a few minutes later, he came back in the room, and he shut the bedroom door and reached over behind the bedroom door, behind the quilt, and reached over and pulled out the shotgun. And I'm standing there, and I was like, what are you doing? He goes, you need to sit down. He said, you need to sit down, and you better not move. And then he raised the shotgun up, and he chambered it and leveled it at my face. And he says, any sudden movements, and I will shoot you. Then he told me that he was going to shove the gun up inside me and shoot me. And that's when I made a decision that I was not going to sit there and let him do that. That if he was going to shoot me, it was going to be me trying to get away from him. So when I jumped up, he stepped back and he shot me. He shot me in the abdomen. And I remember immediately not feeling my leg anymore. Because when it shot me, it severed all my nerves on my left side. But I remember him standing over me constantly with that gun, and I kept just telling him to call 911. And he said, no, that's not gonna work. You're gonna die. They can't save you. I'm not worried about you. I need to figure out what I'm gonna do. And I remember feeling so calm laying there on the floor. It was really weird because I felt warm and I felt calm. I felt like somebody was holding me. And then all of a sudden I said, Dennis, if you're not going to call 911, shoot me again. Just shoot me again. And when I said that to him, it's like he looked at me and he saw me for the first time laying on that floor. And the guy that I met in church, the nice guy, was in that room with me. And when he saw me, he was horrified. And he picked up the phone and he called 911 and he told him what he had done. I'm not real good at remembering Bible verses, but the one that kept running through my head that night was, be still and know that I am God. By the time he finally did call 911 and they life-flighted me down to Memorial Hermann Hospital, I'd completely bled out and I no longer had a pulse. They gave me a less than 1% chance of living. I truly believe that if I had been laying on that floor fighting or moving or trying to get up or panicking, I probably would have bled out a lot faster. But that be still, that calmness, I think that helped save my life. I ended up losing about 80% of my digestive system. They really didn't think that I was going to live through the first surgery. And they told my 2 kids that if I did live, I was going to have no quality of life. And they told my kids that I'd be in the hospital 6 months to a year, and that they really needed to start looking at facilities, someplace to put me after that, because I probably wouldn't be able to take care of myself, because they didn't know if I was going to be able to eat. They didn't know if I was going to be able to have normal body functions. They didn't know if I was going to be able to walk again. I got out of the hospital in 3 months, and I was back at my job in 7 months. I hated to look at myself in the mirror when I first got out of the hospital. It was an ugly red scar, and I looked horrible because I'd lost all this weight, and I was white and pale, and my hair had turned white, and I hated to look at myself in the mirror. I had to force myself to start looking at myself in the mirror, and I started buying this cocoa butter, and every day as a ritual, I would stand in front of a mirror and I would rub my scar with this cocoa butter. And I still do that today, but you know what? I look at my scar now and I love it. I love it. Yeah, I don't mind showing my scar. It's actually kind of hard to see now, and I don't have a belly button. I'm kind of strange, have no belly button, but you know what? I love this, because this represents that I lived and that I'm here, and that doctors in our country are amazing that they could do this. You know, so, and it's not ugly and red anymore. I've probably gone through 50 bottles of cocoa butter. But, you know, I can look at myself in the mirror now, and for the first time in my life, I'm happy with who I see. I'm happy. I love who I am now. We went to trial. It was hard. It was hard to see him again. It lasted a week. It was hard to get up on that witness stand and talk about what happened in front of all those people, but I did it. And he did get convicted, and he got life in prison, and he'll never get out. I'm not worried about things now, because I know that when I come to a struggle or something happens, I'm going to come out okay. You know, it's like walking through that fire and coming out on the other side's a better, wholer person. I'm Laura. I'm a survivor, and I have a voice.